Hello, sisters, and welcome to another episode of Kitchen Table Talks. I am your host, Dr. Jacqueline Jarl, along with your other host, Miss Olivia Cream. And today we're going to get very, very personal. First, we're going to welcome Olivia back. She's been out because of Hurricane Melissa. Essentially, she was in direct path, like in the eye of Hurricane Melissa, and lost her house. And they've been rebuilding. So welcome back, Olivia. We're very glad that Dan, your husband, and all the pets were okay. After the hurricane, we obviously know that your house is not okay. But we are here to help you through that process. So today where Olivia is gonna share with us her experience through Hurricane Melissa and how it's impacted her life and also her leadership. So Olivia, without further ado, thank you again for sharing such a personal story with us. And I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, JJ, and thank you everyone that's tuning in to listen to this story. This one's a spicy one, and I would say if I get emotional, you guys forgive me because I've been way freer with my emotions these days, so that very well may happen. But I'll just take you guys back to the beginning. So in October, my husband and well, let me take you all the way back. So in May, my husband and I fulfilled a 10-year-long dream of packing up our things and moving back home to Jamaica. And what that meant for us was really this 10-year dream of building a soft life, slow mornings, easy days, financial freedom, all the things that would essentially make up our dream life. And let me tell you, we had 6 months of absolute bliss. It was coffee out back, listening to the waves in the morning, taking beach walks. We had like a little stingray friend that we would see every morning on our beach walks. We rescued two beach puppies because yes, I know I cannot help myself, so I collected two little beach puppies, and we were, for all intents and purposes, really living the dream. And then October rolled around. So May we moved to Jamaica, spent a ton of money, moved all of our stuff, all of our earthly possessions to our amazing beach home. Enjoyed that for about 6 months, and then October rolled around. So October rolled around, and you guys know that we're Coast Guard veterans, so we get this, we're watching the weather, and we know that it's picking up in the tropics. It's kind of the tail end of hurricane season, and we hear, okay, Hurricane Melissa is going to become a thing. And for about a week, Melissa like putzed around, and she's coming, she's not coming, she's coming to Kingston. Okay, maybe she's coming more to the middle of the island. And keep in mind, we're on the very far west of the island. We did our due diligence, and a hurricane has not hit this part of the island in literally 37 years. You guys, like 37 years. At least a major hurricane has not hit this part of the island. So we were watching it. We're like, should be fine. We're like tracking it, and we're like, we don't want to leave our house. We don't want to, leave everything. So it should be fine. We'll be fine. Anyways, we were not fine. So about 3 days or so before the storm hit, I'm starting to get calls from my family. They're concerned. What are you guys doing? You guys need to leave. You need to come up to the hills. Like it's going to be tracking closer to you. But everything at that point in time said it was going to Kingston. So we waited. And again, there was this pull towards our stuff, right? We had just moved everything. We had just bought this awesome house, and we were very reluctant to just up and leave it. With my husband's biggest concern being like, okay, well, if we get some damage and we can't get back to the house, like what happens? What if people break in? Like all these, the what ifs started to pile up. So we waited and waited until the point where we could not evacuate anymore. So the day before the storm, anxiety super high, nobody's sleeping. We're doing everything that we can. We're putting things up. We're taping up the back doors. everything that we can to secure the house. And then we get the weather report that we are likely going to get hit with a 13 to 15-foot storm surge. You guys, if you've ever had a 13-foot wall of water coming at you, that is not something that is survivable. And we were in a single story home. Even with the seawall, the water would have been well above, the seawall. So you're talking probably a good 10 feet or more of flooding inside the house. And that's before you consider the waves on top of that. So I made a last minute kind of desperate call to our neighbor. All the neighbors were on a group chat and we were, all texting, are you staying? Are you going? Are you staying? Are you going? So the one neighbor about 4 homes down had just built this absolutely beautiful new beach villa. And they had 2 stories, brand new hurricane rated doors and windows. And we said, okay, that's our best shot. So we made a phone call and our neighbor, whose name is Dan, we'll just refer to him as Black Dan because my husband is White Dan. So Black Dan was like, yeah, no problem. Come on over. So the night before, we packed up our essentials, right? Like passports, documents. I put my computer, the 2 cats, the 2 dogs, and some survival things because we weren't sure exactly how bad. We knew it would be bad, but we weren't sure exactly how bad it would be. So we packed up those things, put the generator, if you guys can believe it. I am 5'3". I won't even tell you my weight, but it's not a lot. And me and my husband dragged a generator onto the roof of our house in hopes that it would survive, and a couple cans of gas as well in hopes that it would survive. So we move over to the neighbors. We kind of set up shop on the second floor. His second floor, I would say, is probably about 25 feet, maybe 30 feet above sea level. This is going to become relevant in a second here. So the morning of the storm, the about mid-morning, the weather takes an absolute turn. So off in the distance, super far off in the distance, you can see the reef. And Dan and I, being Coast Guard officers, or former Coasties, me an officer, Dan, a senior enlisted member, we're looking at the waves coming in, and we're seeing like 20-foot waves breaking on the reef pretty far out. And we're looking at each other like, oh man, we might have messed up, right? Like the reality's starting to hit. Like we might have miscalculated here. So somewhere around noon, and thank God it was noon because the earlier reports had it hitting us in the night. If it would have hit in the night, we would have died for certain. But around noon, we're watching the waves roll in, and at this point in time, the wind is so bad, but it's helping us. So the wind is opposite of the waves. So we're kind of watching the waves come in, and then it hits this like wall of wind, and then you just see the waves fall down, and we're like, okay, the universe is working in our favor. Like maybe the waves will stay out to sea. Guys, it did not stay out to sea. So at some point in time, it took a shift, and the wind and the waves were working together, coming in, and everything just started to come apart. The noises is something that I will never forget. Imagine being in a 6 hour long tornado. That's basically what this was like. Breakers are popping, transformers are exploding. Trees are being picked up by their roots. Things are just, cars are being picked up and tossed like Legos. The noises were just so extreme. And a little after the water started to come up over the seawall, it folded their hurricane rated sliding glass doors on the first floor like tortilla shells. Like I have never seen something crumple under that kind of pressure. It was absolutely alarming, but also spectacular to watch that kind of power. And so the water came in full force and we scrambled upstairs. I had the 2 puppies and the cats in their carriers, and we kind of scrambled, all of us, the neighbor included, upstairs and into an interior section of their upstairs part of their house, which would have been like a large walk-in closet. So think where you would go if it was a tornado, right? So we're on the inside and we were in there just, the house is vibrating as the water is like hitting it and receding, hitting it and receding. And the wind is just like whipping so that the structure itself is kind of moving. And all we can do, there's no windows in this particular area of the house. So all we can do is just like listen and try to manage our anxiety. And if you've ever been in a situation where your fear or the absolute terror, and guys, this could be physical terror, or this could be something like you're going in to talk to a toxic boss and your body's just vibrating with fear. That's the level of fear that was happening right now. So we're in this room and we couldn't have been in there for more than an hour, and the roof absolutely gets ripped off. I mean, the whole roof. So it's just like, gone. So now we're open to the elements and we're having to cross the house to the only other area that still had a roof on it, which was this little, I'd say, attic access. So you go through the door. And it's just like a little space, maybe 5 by 5. We're standing on this like wooden platform that was maybe, I would say, 3 feet wide by maybe 7 feet long. And then it's just like, soft plaster of the roof. So we're crossing, and as we're crossing, the water is so high now that the wave is crashing onto the second floor of this house, and it crashes in and knocks in that hurricane rated sliding door on the second floor. So we're hopping and skipping and jumping over this sliding door that just came rushing in addition to fighting the water and fighting the wind. That to get across the house. And the winds, I heard it got up to 182-mile-an-hour winds with faster gusts. So you imagine like trying to walk in that was not great. So we make it across the house into this little attic area. The waves are pouring in, pouring down the stairs. It looks like we're concerned now that the stairs are going to go and we're going to get trapped up there. And what if the entire second floor goes and now the whole house gets taken out to sea? I mean, the what ifs in my mind are coming at such a rate that I am literally paralyzed with fear. And my husband in all of this, I have to say, God bless him, because at some point in time when we were sitting on that platform, and to give you the visual, we were sitting on the platform just inside the door. The door frame into the little attic area didn't have a door on it yet. Remember, it was a brand new house. So we're sitting just aft of the door frame, crouching down. We've got the puppies behind us, just hoping to God that they don't run off. The cats are in their carriers and we're all huddled together. And I look at Black Dan, and I remember asking him, "Do you think we're going to die?" And he just looked at me, because at that point in time, I think we all thought that like this was it. There was nowhere else to go in the house. The bottom floor is absolutely flooded. And so now I'm hunkered down and I'm thinking to myself, okay, what's my next move? Dan had on a backpack, a waterproof backpack. I had the cats in their carriers, and my husband insisted that we were all going to live. He was going to save the puppies, he was going to save the cats, he was going to save me. We were all going to live in his mind. And I could see him clutching on to all of us. And so at this point, you guys know I'm a planner, even when it comes to death. So I'm holding on to him and holding on to the straps of the backpack, and I'm saying to him, Dan, if we get sucked out of this roof, you have to let everything go. You have to let everything go but me. We're just going to hold on to each other. And I said that to him because in my mind, we were 100%, we were getting sucked out of the roof. We're going to end up in the water. And our best hope was just to keep hold of each other. So at that point, I'm watching we're on this wooden platform and I'm looking up and I'm watching the roof separate from the rest of the house. The little platform that we were on and the roof. The shingles are flying off. The platform is flexing up and down. And I'm just waiting for the inevitable to happen. And Dan says to me, my Dan says to me, absolutely not. We're all going to live. We are going to live. And at this point in time, I'm crouched down. I have the puppies under my arms. Dan has his body over mine and he's holding down the two cats. And the neighbor says to us, all we can do is pray. And so we hold each other. And I've never prayed harder in my life, you guys. Like, I gave up everything. I'm not drinking wine. Like, I made all the promises to God. I'm like, I'm not going to do anything bad again if you just let me live. And sure enough, about 45 minutes later, the wind started to die down a bit. Like, you could hear it, the wind started to die down. And so at that point in time, White Dan, or sorry, Black Dan said, let's move forward into the attic, which was a little bit of a risky move because we were standing on the little metal strips. And then in between that was just plaster. So if we made a wrong step, we were going right through the ceiling, into the water on the bottom floor. So we moved forward and kind of around the corner. So we're in this very small crawl space in their ceiling, just waiting out the rest of the storm, surrounded by fiberglass. I mean, it was just not the best spot, but we were safe, right? It seemed like the wind had either shifted or maybe died down enough that that area of the house wasn't getting hit as badly. And we stayed there for another 90 minutes. After those 90 minutes were over, I can't tell you how happy I was just for the noise not to be there. You start to be so grateful for some of the most ridiculous things. But from where we were, of course, some of the ceiling tiles had come out and there was now a hole and we could see down to the ground. And we realized, oh, heck, the water's going out. Like, we could see ground at this point. So we decided to crawl down. Family, when we crawled out of that roof, and looked around. It's like my body, all the tension, all the fuel, all the anxiety, the adrenaline that was keeping me going for the 6 hours we were in that roof, everything suddenly just left me and I collapsed, like literally collapsed. I just went to my knees and to look around and see the destruction and realize that we didn't die was something, it was indescribable. It's a feeling that I hope no one ever has to experience, but it shifted my perspective in such a spiritually profound way. It's hard to describe. Like, I can't fathom having a bad day from here on out, after having that experience. So now the terror starts. Okay. So you were like, well, Olivia, now the terror starts? Yes, girl. Now the terror starts because let me tell you what's happened. So you hear these stories about like Katrina or people surviving tornadoes, and you think, oh, like surviving the storm is the worst of it. But what people don't realize, myself included, is after the storm, like you still got to live. Like, you got to drink water, you got to eat, you got to like find a way to get around. Like, there's no power, there's no cell signal, there's no nothing, right? Like, um so imagine we walk out of this place, we see what we see, we secure the animals. My husband and the neighbor take a walk down to my house, and my husband comes back. And mind you, we're preppers, right? So we must have had JJ, you know this. Like, we had our ammo, we had knives, we had fire starters, we had water purification tablets, we had like those like safe drinking straws, we had tubs and tubs and tubs of dry food that we could probably live for a year on, emergency rations. But no one plans for everything to just be gone. right? Like you don't plan for that. So they went to the house and they were able to recover the generator from the roof actually made it. I don't know how. We put it in between two peaks of the roof, and I guess that was enough, distortion from the wind that the generator made it. So they came back with the generator and 6 cans of gas, and there was nothing else in the house. When I say nothing, you guys, it was as if Melissa opened the back of my house like a sardine can. So imagine you open the can and you peel it back. That's what the back wall looked like. And everything was gone. There was no furniture. There was no underwear. There was nothing in the closets. There was nothing on the walls. There were no cabinets, no countertops, no sinks, no glass in the shower, no piping anywhere to be found. Like everything was gone. And that is something that you don't, the trauma of just that, right? Just everything is just like gone. Um, is still something we're still recovering from, to be completely honest. Like 40 years of collective life, just it's just gone. And then there are these little bright spots. There was one cabinet left, like hanging on by a thread, and it was the only cabinet. It was the cabinet that had our canned foods. So we had like 5 cans of tuna, a couple cans of ground beef, some bags of noodles. How that survived the storm, I have absolutely no idea, but it did. Um, so they collected whatever food was left there, collected the generator, and came on back. And for the next couple days, so it took us 3 days to get rescued. My family found us on the third day. The next couple days, like it was us and 4 other neighbors. 9 neighbors died on the street. So over the next 24 hours, we were finding bodies. The police were doing the best that they could to identify them. There was nowhere to take them, so they were just burying them on site. That area of the island was completely cut off. So there had been mudslides and flooding elsewhere. So people trying to get to us just could not get to us. And so now, like, it becomes a health concern because there's standing water places, there's animals. The first night, me, my husband, and the neighbor slept on the same bed. There's no windows or doors anywhere. There's mosquitoes, there's crabs and bats and rats and anything still living, crawling through. And it was just pretty incredible. But here's what I will tell you I learned from this experience. We tell ourselves stories in life, myself included. And I'll just be really honest here. What Melissa shifted for me is she helped me realize the things in life that were important and the things in life that are not important. And your things, family, they're not important. And if you build your identity around your title, around your car, around your house, around your jewelry, around your red bottoms, because I loved me some red bottoms and they all went out to sea. If you build your identity around those things, you are setting yourself up for failure because life comes at you fast. And whether it's recession, whether it's fire, whether it's Hurricane Melissa, that heifer, or whatever else, those things can be gone in an instant. And so you really have to ask yourself, who are you underneath those things? And the second thing that Melissa really taught me is people are all that matter. And, I had these relationships or lack thereof, I would say, my parents being the biggest one. And for years and years and years, I had convinced myself that I was unlovable, that my parents didn't love me, that my parents didn't want me, that, different things would happen. And if you guys knew the backstory, you'd be like, yeah, believe I might have believed that too. But at the end of the day, I think we have a choice on how we're going to live. And when we hold on to those things and we refuse to forgive, it keeps us trapped in this self-fulfilling prophecy that if you feel like so and so did something to you and now makes you feel unlovable, if you feel unlovable, you will present yourself in the world as being unlovable and you'll become unlovable. And so the forgiveness and the importance of our relationships, our core family relationships, and those early stories that you tell yourself, the importance of forgiveness is something that I cannot emphasize, ladies. We all have these stories. What I want you to do for me, please, like, look at my skin. Like, look, I'm like living my best life right now. And the reason I'm living my best life, ladies, still in the midst of all this chaos, in the midst of rebuilding my house, is because my spirit and my heart is free because I have forgiven. Because I do not want to go to my grave. God forbid, had I died in that roof, I would not have wanted to go to my grave holding on to the pain and the stories that I told myself about my parents, about my toxic bosses, about my idiot exes, about whoever contributed to the negative narrative that you carry in your head. Fam, let it go. Forgive them and let it go. I promise you, it will set you free. And then the last one that I want to share with you guys is how to return to yourself. Okay, let me explain what I mean. After the storm, the anxiety was on 100. I don't have enough money. How am I going to repair my house? Oh my God, do I have to move back to America? I can't tell you how many meltdowns I had about having to go back to work again, the thing that I just freed myself from. Like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go get a job in corporate America again. Um, all of these like compounding fears that, side note, when I sat down and tackled the fears one by one, I realized how irrational they actually were. It was my brain, you know, going into triage mode, like push, 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 because that's how I live my life, thinking of plan A through Z. What if this happens? And then I'll do this. And what if this happens? And then I'll do this. It does not serve you, you guys. It may have served you at some point in time, maybe when you were younger, maybe when you were in your grind phase, but at this point in life, it no longer serves you. And so I'm going to ask you to do this. What I have found, my mentor Christy, who we've had on here before, told us that we need to exercise and we need to meditate. And you will hear things like this, and you will say to yourself, "It can't be that simple." It's that simple. It is that simple. When you feel the fear building, and I'm telling you this now from lived experience, if I can work my way out of nearly dying in a roof and taking a Cat 5 hurricane to the face and not like completely using my ish, I promise you this will work for a big meeting that you have, or maybe you're overwhelmed and overstimulated at home because there's too many things that you're trying to juggle, the kids, the husband, the this, the that. Take a minute, just take a minute. Go outside if you can, even if it's freezing cold, just take a second, go outside and breathe, ladies. And what I mean by that is just put your hand on your chest. Okay. If you want to tap, you can tap. There's actually a mechanism. I think they actually just call it tapping that
Yeah.
helps bring you back into your body. Tap yourself. You can tap yourself here. You can tap yourself here. You can tap yourself here. Do a chat GPT, Google it. I promise you.
Yep.
For me, whether it's tapping or just the physical sensation of my hand on my chest, either way works. And just breathe. Just close your eyes. Do a deep inhale. You hold it, and then you just exhale and just feel what's happening around you. If there's a breeze, feel the breeze. If it's cold, feel the cold and enjoy the cold. Best thing to do it barefooted. Go touch some grass and just take a second and breathe. And once your nervous system realizes you're not actually in a Cat 5 hurricane and you're not actually going to die, it gives you room to think logically. So then you can start to ask yourself, okay, why am I anxious? What is the problem I'm actually trying to solve? What could actually happen here? And it gives your brain enough of a break to actually diagnose the issue and return you back to yourself so you can do what you do best and troubleshoot whatever problem it is that you're having at the moment. I promise you that practice has saved my life. Um, Still in therapy, but this simple thing that I do almost on a daily basis now, I do it in the morning and I do it at night just to bring myself back into my body and out of the what ifs and out of the calculating and out of the plotting, bring myself back to myself to realize I'm still here, I'm still breathing. And as long as you're still here, ladies, as long as you still have breath, you have all the opportunity in the world to change or enjoy the circumstance that you're in. So just breathe and feel and then do what you need to do.
Yeah. If I can add, what you said about the what ifs, like I have, if you're into Gallup's ranks or and things, right? I have deliberative in my top five. So I'm always risk managing. I'm always what ifing. And I saw something on social media the other day that said we always what if the worst scenarios. Okay. What if we what ifed the best scenarios? And this is neuroscience again, right? If we think about the worst scenarios, we tend to make the worst scenarios happen. If we think about the best scenarios, our brains will figure out a way to make the best scenarios happen. So that's something, right, that I like. It's so powerful. Like I want people to try this, right? So the next time that you start what ifing, and you're only going down the negative slope of the what if, right? I want you to shift it a little bit and say, okay, what are some good things that can happen, right? What if I do this and a good thing happens, right? Because that's possible. You can do something and something good will happen. Okay. So that's one thing. And the next thing you said about the breathing is over the last 6 7 months since I've retired, I've been doing a lot of like neuroscience reading, right, on how the brain works, how the body works, and that's just a part of because like I'm an educator, so I'm very interested in how we learn, how we um get new habits, break old habits, right, and things like that. And one of the things that was really useful for me, and I do this all the time now, is literally to be in silence. So, sort of like the meditation, right? Sort of like the breathing, like it's all connected, but to just be in silence because in today's world, there's sound everywhere, right?
Yes.
Like our phones, we're always listening to music when we're driving, right? We're maybe listening to a podcast or something like that. It doesn't give your brain an opportunity to rest because when there is sound, your brain is working, right? We might think that, oh, when we're watching TV, right, people say that's a passive activity, like your brain's not actually doing anything. Like your brain is listening, it is processing, and it is not resting, and it cannot function because it's overworked, right? 24 hours a day, other than when you're sleeping, essentially, right? But when you're sleeping, your brain is literally trying to get rid of all the toxins, a mental toxin, right, that came in during the day, and it's also working. So if like we're just overworking our brains, and it
Yeah.
impacts our ability to essentially manage stress and anxiety, right, and things like that. So if you can start very small, like 5 minutes a day, right? Maybe it's when you're showering, or maybe it's when you're driving to pick up your kids, right, or something like that. Just drive or shower in silence, like no music, no podcast, right? Nothing. Just learn to be in silence and allow your brain to rest so that it can do better things, right? And think better when you need it to think. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit connected to the meditation piece, right? Because meditation is obviously all about sitting in silence and then learning how to be in yourself, right, and things like that. So yeah, I mean, thanks so much, Olivia, for sharing your story. I remember when you finally got service or internet, and you called me and you told me that everything was gone in your house, like I couldn't comprehend that. Like, I don't know if you remember
I remember.
that, like, because I was sitting on the phone and I didn't know what to say, and I was like, I think I said, "What do you mean everything is gone?" Right? Because
Mhm.
in my mind, that was like not a possible scenario. And it was so hard for me to comprehend that you had nothing left in your house. I was like, that's not, because even a tornado, like, you have things that that get left in your house, right? Like, yeah. So I think for us who, obviously we did not go through that, but we go through things like this in our careers. We go through things like this in our financials, right? We hit rock bottom in our financials, bankruptcy, and people become homeless, right? And things like that. And in our careers, like some people, work for a company for however many years, and then all of a sudden they get laid off.
Yep.
And it's like I'm not gonna say it's the same, right? But mentally it's like a similar
It's the same.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah,
where
it is.
you've lost everything in that part of your life, right? You've
Yes.
lost your career. And if you, just like you said, if you identify, if your identity is tied so closely, right, with your possessions or with your career or with your money, when if those things ever are gone, just like yours, right, then it's almost like you're gone, because now your identity is gone because you identified with those things. So I think very, very important, Olivia, the very first thing you brought up, right, is like, who are you truly, right? Because you are not your possessions, you are not your title, you are not your money. And I had to realize that in order to retire from corporate, right? I literally was holding on to corporate because that was who I was.
Hmm.
I had never in my entire adult life, right, after West Point, always had a full-time job. And my worth and my value were determined by my rank, and then after the military, how much money I made. Like, that was literally, right? That was literally my worth and my, in my head, my worth and my value, right? So if I no longer had the corporate salary, who am I? What am I going to do? Right? Why would people love me? Why would people want to be friends with me?
So you just said something, and I'm so glad you got there on your own because, we'll talk about this more. It's so hard to get all
Yeah,
of the lessons into one session, but you just said something. Why would people love me? You attached your worth to your things because you didn't get it from elsewhere,
correct.
right?
Yeah,
And so for a lot of us, this need and this attachment to tangible things, or this desire to people please, or this desire to be perfect, like you hear people talk about imposter syndrome, and I had already like been like, there's no such thing as imposter syndrome. But all of those things, when you show up and you feel like an imposter, is because something happened to you when you were young that created this story in your head that you needed to seek validation because something was wrong with you, or you were missing something, or you weren't worthy and whole and amazing and brilliant just because you exist, right? Something convinced you that you needed more, or you needed proof
right.
of the greatness that you already inherently have. Because at this point in time, I don't believe God makes mistakes. So if you're alive and you're breathing on this planet right this second, you are worthy, you have value, and you don't need to go seeking it elsewhere. But we go seek it elsewhere because something convinced us that something was wrong with us. And, the master level of this is unearthing that.
Yeah,
Who told you that you needed to have a paycheck to be worthy? Who told you that you needed to have a bunch of money to be loved? Who told you, right? Like, let's get there and let's deal with the root, because everything that happens in the messy middle is just symptoms of that, right? But I think to your point, first things first, to take this away is get yourself a moment of silence so you can think. Because you can't possibly get to the root of what's keeping you captive in these negative narratives if your brain is too noisy for God and yourself to talk to you.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So you have to create an environment, and it could be while you shower. And like, listen, you busy moms are going to try to tell me there's not a second you can find bullshit. There's absolutely a second you can find. It could be 5 seconds. You can
Yeah.
find the time. You just have to choose to make this a priority. But we all need a second with ourselves to examine ourselves so that we can evolve if that's what you choose.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you, Olivia, for sharing your story. Thanks for everyone who has joined us and is listening to us. To close us out, you are worthy. You have value as you are, with no attachments, no monetary, strings, and no possessions. You are you have value as is, and we hope that you would join us for our next session, as we, like Olivia said, kind of dive more into the graduate levels, of coming back to ourselves and what it really means, right, to find our true selves again. All right. So thank you, everybody. And until next time.
Have a good one.